In this video, we're going to learn about charting. We're going to work through examples 3.2 to examples 3.7 in your book, plus a bonus map chart. If you would like to follow along, open the Chapter 3 classwork.xlsx file from my courses, and then come back to this video and follow along. In example 3.2, we're going to create a clustered column chart. We're going to click in cell C3, and then we're going to hold down the left mouse button, click in the middle of the cell to select the range C3 through K6. Once we have selected that range, we're going to click Insert, and then we're going to go into the Charts group. We're going to click the first one on the upper left-hand corner, Insert Column or Bar Chart, and we're going to choose the first option, 2D column. Alright, notice now that our chart is creative and it is active, we have two contextual chart menus up on our toolbar. Under the Chart Tools group, we have a Design tab and a Format tab. Notice when I click away from the chart, those ribbons go away, but once I click on the chart, those come back. We're going to be working a lot on the Design tab. In the Format tab, you could mostly change colors and change the look of your chart. We're going to focus more on the Design, so make sure you're on the Design tab. The first thing that we're going to do is change the chart title. So we're going to click over where it says Chart Title. We're going to select where it says Chart Title, and we're just going to type Alabama Employment. Now that we've typed Alabama Employment, notice we have Series 1, Series 2, and Series 3 because we didn't select the range where it identified all employees, men and women. The blue data point is all employees, the orange one is men, and the gray one is women. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on where it says Series 1. We're going to click on any one of the blue bars. I'm going to click on the first one, and then making sure that we're on the Design tab in the Data group towards the right hand side, we're going to click the button Select Data, and we're going to make sure that we select Series 1. Make sure to click Series 1 and then click the Edit button, and we will call that All Employees by entering that in the series name box. We click OK, and now in our Select Data Source we can rename Series 2 and 3 while we're still here. So I'm going to single click Series 2, click the Edit button, and I'm going to call that one Men, and click OK. And then I'm going to click Series 3, click the Edit button, and in series name type Women. Once I click OK, notice that my legend now says all employees blue, men orange, and women gray. And remember, in the Format tab you can change the colors of those. We're just not going to do that. Now the book wants you to add a data table and then data labels. So I'm going to click the background of the chart, making sure that none of the data tabs are selected. I'm going to make sure that I'm still on the Design tab in the Chart Tools group and click Add Chart Element, Data Table, and I'm going to choose the first one with legend keys. So notice I have a data table down below. It makes my chart kind of small, but remember I can always grab at the edges and just make my chart larger. Now we're going to add data labels. So I'm going to click once again, Add Chart Element, Data Labels, and I am going to choose a data callout. Now notice how busy my data callouts are with both the names and the amounts. I would like it to read only the amounts, so I'm going to click Add Chart Element, go down to Data Labels, and then click More Data Label Options. Notice how when my Format Data Labels comes up, I have both category name and value selected. I'm going to uncheck category name, and notice that seems to happen for only one of my data sets. So I'm going to click one of my laborers and uncheck the category name, click one of my office and clerical workers, uncheck the category name, and I can now close my Format Data Labels, and notice I now have data labels, and you can move them and resize them to make them more readable. One last thing, if you want to make this chart as big as possible for maximum readability, making sure that you're on the Chart Tools and the Design, notice all the way to the right there's a Move Chart. So I can change it from an object in this current sheet to putting it on a new sheet, and I can call that Employment Chart and click OK. And now my chart is basically as large as it can possibly get, and notice the data labels are much more readable. Now let's move on to exercise 3.3. In exercise 3.3, they're telling you to create a line chart for China export data. So we're going to click on the EX 3.3 worksheet tab. We're only going to look at the US exports to China. So what we're going to do is we're going to click in cell A3 and select the range A3 down to B26. We're going to click Insert, and instead of a line chart, what we're going to choose instead is a scatter XY chart. When we click the down arrow, notice there are many options. What we're going to choose is the chart with the smooth lines. We can also choose a scatter with straight lines, but I'm going to choose the scatter with smooth lines. And we can now see our line chart of US exports to China, and we can see that they've grown quite a bit from 1990 to a little past 2010. Now that we've created our line chart, let's move on to pie chart, example 3.4. So we're going to click on example 3.4, and we're going to create a pie chart for not a high school grad. So to do that, we're going to click in cell A2 and select the range A2 to B10. Click Insert. We're going to click the one that looks like a pie, and we're going to choose the first option, a 2D pie. Notice we have our legend, but we would like to add our data labels. So making sure once again we're in that Design tab of the Chart Tools group, Add Chart Element, Data Labels, and Data Callout. And once again you can move those callouts so they don't cover other ones or don't cover the title. Now let's say you would like to do a pie chart of either a bachelor's degree or an advanced degree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this chart out of the way, click away. Now to create a chart of advanced degree, I'm going to select the range A2 down to A10, hold down my Control key, and select G2 to G10. If you do not select the same number of rows in both of the groups, then you cannot create your chart. You can now let go of the Control key, and I'm going to click Insert, and then Pie Chart, and my 2D pie, and I now have my 2D pie of advanced degree, and we can see the data that has been selected. Now we're going to move on to example 3.5, where we're going to create an area chart. So click the EX 3.5 worksheet tab. We're going to select the range F4 down to G, however far it goes down, G68. Then we're going to click the Insert tab. In the Charts group, we're going to click Insert Line or Area Chart. And we're going to choose the second one under 2D Area. We're going to select Stacked Area. We can worry about changing the chart title later. The one thing that we want to do right now is we want to change those data labels on the bottom from points 1 to 63 into the years. In order to do that, in the Chart Tools group, make sure you're on the Design tab, and we're going to click Select Data. On the right hand side, where we see horizontal category axis labels, we're going to click Edit, and in our axis label range, we're going to select the range A5 all the way down to A68, and click OK, and then click OK, and we now have our area chart with our legend and our years inserted. Now let's move on to example 3.6. In example 3.6, we're going to create a scatter chart of house size, square feet versus market value. Scatter charts are very, very useful. We're going to select the range B3 down to C, once again as far down as it goes, C45. Click Insert, and in the Charts group, we're going to click the one that looks like all dots, Insert Scatter or Bubble Chart. We're going to click the down arrow and choose the one on the top left hand side, Scatter Chart. Notice that our chart starts at 0 while theirs starts at 1000. In order to correct this, we're going to hover over one of the numbers on the x-axis until we see horizontal value axis. We're going to single click that. In our Chart Tools group, we're going to make sure that we're on the Format tab. Notice horizontal value axis is selected. We can select something else by clicking the down arrow, but we do want the horizontal value axis. We're going to click Format Selection, and our Format pane comes up on the right hand side. We want to make sure that Axis Options is selected, and notice our first option is Bounds. We have minimum and maximum. We'll just change the minimum to 1000, 1000, and then just click away, close the group, and notice that our chart changes. Now, in our last example, before we do our little bonus, we're going to create a bubble chart. So click on the EX 3.7 worksheet tab. We're going to select the range A3 through F5. We're going to click Insert, and in the Charts group, we're going to click the down arrow for Insert Scatter or Bubble Chart, and we're going to choose the first bubble chart on the left. In order to get our data labels, We're going to make sure that we're still on the Design tab in the Chart Tools group. We're going to click Add Chart Element, Data Labels, and more data label options. Making sure that we're at our label options and not our text options. If not, click Label Options. Notice we have Label Contains. We have the Y value. We're going to change that. So click Value from Cells. When we click Value from Cells, it asks us to select our data label range. Our data label range is B2 to F2. Click OK, and then uncheck the Y value, and then you can close the Format Data Labels dialog box by clicking the X on the upper right hand side, and we now have our bubble chart. Now let's move on to our little bonus on how to create a map chart. So I downloaded some census data, different states and the population in 2010. So all we have to do, because we're choosing the entire range, all we have to do is click any cell within the list. We're going to click Insert, and under Chart, we're going to select Maps. If you don't see this, it means that you don't have Office 365. It means that you don't have the newest version of Excel. Hopefully you can come into the lab and try it out. So we're going to click Maps and then Filled Map. And we have a nice little map of the United States. So I'll make it a little larger. And making sure once again we're in that Design group, we'll click Add Chart Element, Data Labels, and Show. And we can now see that we have a nice little map. And for those states that we can't see, as long as we hover over it, it will show us that state and that state's population. Alright, that's it for this example. We're going to move on in the next video to the later examples in Chapter 3.